everyone, Lou here. For those who are just finding this video, or maybe longtime viewers who don't remember, but this is part of a big series I'm doing on reviewing all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Up until GX. Today we're taking a look at the spin-off, Yu-Gi-Oh! Capsule Monsters. Released a few months after Yu-Gi-Oh! Ended on TV in America, Capsule Monsters was a spin-off made by Studio Gallop, but was actually commissioned and pitched by 4Kids. Now, I don't believe this ended up airing on actual TV, at least I sure as hell don't remember this airing on any 4Kids dubbing stations like CW, Fox, or Cartoon Network. From my memory, Capsule Monsters is exclusively a DVD and on-demand exclusive at the time, because I remember my on-demand had Capsule Monsters, but GX was already airing on TV, so weird, huh? Another thing is that there is no Japanese audio for this, as the original audio for this is in English, and this was never released in Japan. Now, it is heavily debated in the lost media community, though, as to whether or not there is a Japanese dub of this. Mainly because there was one for the movie, which was also commissioned and pitched by 4Kids, but for now, it's just a heavily debatable topic on whether or not it exists. Now, the reason was not to give a fun farewell to Yu-Gi-Oh!, but instead to promote a spin-off of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game called Capsule Monsters that worked like an advanced version of Dungeon Dice Monsters, which meant it sucked and nobody played it. Though, nowadays, considering how popular blind box toys are, I can see this concept doing at least a little better today as collectible figures, with maybe a side game nobody's gonna bother to play. Obviously, the toys did fail though pretty hard because it just wasn't the hit the actual card game was, and thus Capsule Monsters ended up flopping and remaining a bad nostalgic taste in everyone's mouths for years to come. Many would criticize this anime for copying a lot of story beats from season 4, as well as just being generally a fucking stupid story. So let's take a look at ourselves and start with the story. Quick thing, this story is not canon at all, by the way. Unlike the Yu-Gi-Oh! Movie where you could reasonably shove it right after season 3, there is no possible way for this to reasonably fit in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Timeline, which is pretty surprisingly tight actually. I mean, maybe the manga, but the manga for Yu-Gi-Oh! Is completely different in terms of tone to the anime. Joey wins the cheerleader squad a vacation to India for some reason, so they all go. Also, Yuki's grandpa's missing since he was going on a research trip with some old colleague besties from his archaeology days or whatever, where hijinks are gonna ensue because this is Yu-Gi-Oh! And these kids just aren't allowed to have a good time. Basically, they end up in the real version of the Capsule Monsters game. Ancient Romans, Indians, Egyptians played, which is basically a bunch of random riddles and fighting monsters. The plot is basically everyone running around learning how this works and just random battles for the sake of it. Honestly, the whole thing just kind of reminds me of the first generation of Digimon, even though this was probably meant to be a Pokemon clone more than a Digimon clone. Then later on, Yugi gets literal plot armor in the form of this stupid chest plate thing that lets him wear the armor of the Capsule Monster with magical girl-esque transformations to it. Alexander the Meh meets up with the group, which I'm not really sure why Alex being Alexander is somehow supposed to be a plot twist when, like, come on, preschool shows have plot twists like this. Okay, so this is so weird, but apparently Alexander the Based was also possessed by the Millennium Ring, not getting possessed by the evil spirit that now possesses Bakura for some reason, and its dark magic was able to help him conquer the world, I guess. So Exposition Ghost Shoddy comes in to make him prove himself by playing a riddle-filled isekai? Okay. He lost the game or something, and that's the reason Alexander the Mediocre fell into ruin. Then he just kind of gives them a random riddle and joins the party as our plot twist villain in disguise, like Akechi in Persona 5, I guess. I will say though, that despite Kaiba being thankfully nowhere near this plot, it's kind of funny to see Yamayugi fuse with Blue Eyes White Dragon, because you know that is literally Kaiba's wet dream. So then the next plot twist is that, again, instead of the Millennium Ring unleashing what we know now as Yami Bakura, it splits Alexander the 4-star review in half, His good half is stuck in the Capsule Monsters isekai, and his evil half has been laying dormant in all of his descendants for over 2,000 years, I think? I mean, you can really tell this plot was written by 4 kids because it has some vague evilness that makes no sense in the way Anubis was in the Yu-Gi-Oh movie. They do make it back to the real world though, with Alexander's good half fusing with his evil half to try and silence him, but then surprise, surprise, his evil half took over and he uses this gem thing, explained earlier, to open some door to ultimate power. Oh, also it's explained that our exposition ghost Shoddy built this pyramid to give ultimate power to someone. For a guy that's all about protecting the world from evil ancient Egyptian artifacts, guess he's got some weird priorities, but also it's been a while since we got exposition from him, so I guess he needed to show up somehow. Basically, this turns into a Pokemon-esque fight for the cheerleader squad, where they go to war with Alexander's cheerleader squad, while Alexander uses his dual armor to fuse himself to this stupid giant mech thing. The whole fight is just ridiculous and stupid, and not in a fun, over-the-top kind of way. This is like food fight levels of just fighting that feels like it's not going anywhere. After a lot of useless fighting, Yamayuki ends this battle with the power of literal plot armor and friendship to defeat Alexander the Dumbass, so this incredibly lame, thankfully non-canonical spin-off can actually end. Alexander the Not-So-Great's good half thanks everyone for letting his soul rest after 2,000 years, and tells Yamayuki that he's honored to have met him because when he took over Egypt, he heard a lot of legends about him. You know, you'd think he'd at least share his name, but apparently not. See, this is when he sucks. Dude couldn't even just casually mention his name. Come on now. It ends with the gang getting saved by a rescue team to take them either back to Japan or let them finish their India vacation. Hopefully they just go back home and sleep, because these kids can't be trusted with travel, knowing literally everything wants to destroy the world, I guess. I mean, the story just kind of feels like a fanfic someone wrote at 14. It has all these character cliches and cheap attempts at copying the main story beats that it just genuinely comes across as a fanfiction animated. Like, I want to be generous and say, oh, maybe there's potential here, but there's really not. I don't know what it is with Yu-Gi-Oh! Spin-off material like this and Duelists of the Roses where they made Yami-Yugi Henry VII for some reason, but I'm not a personal fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! Including major historical characters like this. It just kind of makes the series feel cheap. I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is an extremely creative series. Forcing in real-life people just kind of makes it all feel like a lazy way to write something, since history writes itself, you know? Everyone just doesn't have weight to it. The riddles the characters solve all end up being way too literal or just not make any sense. Everyone is so weirdly mean to Joey, and a lot of the characters just feel really out of character. Like, Yamayugi is the one who is weirdly overly paranoid about protecting everyone, and Taya is a lot more worried for everyone's safety than usual, which is a lot when it's Taya. Overall, I watched all 12 episodes in a single night, and I kid you not that I felt like nothing happened throughout 90% of it. It was just, I was mostly bored, not gonna lie. The story is just something really fucking bland. You know, I've seen a lot of cartoons made for toys in my days, but at least all of them had something interesting about them, jeez. I'm not gonna sit here and say this is the worst animation in Yu-Gi-Oh! History, solely because we're not at the final season yet, which is absolute dog shit, and I'm fully convinced Studio Gallop just went flat broke making that season of Yu-Gi-Oh! For some reason, but this isn't good either. For some reason, the animation staff on this one had a weird habit of drawing everyone's eyes with really thick outlines, so it makes everyone look like they put on extremely thick eyeliner. The coloring is pretty off to a point where Joey's hair legit looks brown in some places, and overall the animation is just meh. It's stiff, no cool angles to make up for boring scenes or anything to make it stand out. Also, it has the Yu-Gi-Oh! Bad animation thing sometimes where Yami-Yugi, Joey, and Taya's hair looks larger than usual, like someone just used the enlarge tool half the time. I mean, considering this was made to sell toys, you'd think there would be a lot worse, but surprisingly not. One thing though I did notice is that the quality on this is really low. Like, I know the Yu-Gi-Oh anime doesn't have the best quality because I think it hasn't been digitally restored in any way like other anime, but this one is just weirdly really bad. Like, it's not even like this was Hulu's fault or anything. I remember it was always weirdly low quality like this whenever Yu-Gi-Oh! Capsule Monsters turned up on demand. This was back before streaming services, as a heads up, as I was too young for the internet aside from Disney Channel and Cartoon Network, so anytime Yu-Gi-Oh! Came on, regardless of how crappy the storyline or spin-off was, I would watch it. I guess it makes sense since I feel weirdly confident that this was a direct-to-DVD miniseries here, and DVDs didn't have the best quality back then for obvious reasons, so I guess it makes sense. This is also a dog shit spin-off, so I think 4Kids just didn't want to sit there and let Studio Gallup give it a higher resolution or restore it for streaming purposes, you know? Overall, the animation is decent for the time and what it is. Definitely don't go in expecting it to look nice and clear though. Anything that had the potential to be interesting is done super far away, so they don't have to animate the details. I could see why Little Karibo called this Capsule Monsters, because this was crap. I'm not gonna sit here and call this the worst Yu-Gi-Oh! Storyline because it's not canon. It's a spin-off miniseries that's thankfully not connected or referenced ever again. However, it is the worst non-canon anime thing I've seen because it's just so badly written and it's just so boring. Unlike the original Yu-Gi-Oh!, there's nothing interesting or cool about this story that makes me want to know more. What's gonna happen next? I just want these kids to go home as much as they complain they want to. Also, like, the quick one-liners aren't funny, and if I'm being honest, a lot of them felt weirdly mean-spirited towards Joey. Like, I know the dub harps on Joey a lot, but this is way more than usual. This just felt like 4Kids had a vendetta or something, which is saying a lot because I also harp on Joey a lot in this series. Yeah, to be honest, I find the funny one-liners in Yu-Gi-Oh! Dubs to get less and less funny as we go on, because Kaiba is the one to carry the funny one-liners, and this was kind of the beginning of 4Kids' end, where dub dialogue got less and less charming as we move on to each anime they dub. I think personally GX's dub was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for some, but anyway. I can only really recommend this to either as a drinking game involving anything this plot mentions 500 times, or you want to play something in the background while you literally do anything else. I mean, I got so bored about halfway through that I just started playing Tears of the Kingdom while I watched, which thankfully made the experience so much better, solely because at least I was exploring Hyrule. If you want to torture yourself and watch Capsule Monsters, this is pretty easy to find. It's available on Hulu, Tubi, DVD, and of course the Wink Wink Nudge Nudge websites. That'll be it for this video. Next up is the final season of Yu-Gi-Oh!, which I'm very excited to go over with you guys. The final season is one of my favorite story arcs in Yu-Gi-Oh! Next to Battle City, which will be super exciting for me to finally gush over and nerd out about. How do you guys feel about Capsule Monsters? Do you love it? Did you guys actually buy any of the toys? If you did, you might actually have some coin on you, cause I saw on Google that the Capsule Monster toys go for like $600, which is fucking insane to me. Anyways, as always, let me know down below. Hey guys, thanks for watching! If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're new. If any of you would like to help support my channel in any possible way, my Ko-fi page is down below in the description, along with all of my social media. For any subscribers, new or old, who'd like to help with video ideas, or maybe just want to talk about anime or something, I have a fan server linked down below. See you next time!